Spooky Easter eggs in Mario games seem to be more common than you would expect. Oftentimes, these occurrences leave us wondering what they were about. And typically, we don't have enough control of our environment to understand what had actually taken place. Whether it be getting a closer look at the Hell Valley Skytrees or Super Mario 3D Land's World 4-4 Ghost, there was only so much you could do with your character and in-game camera. Not having greater resources perpetuated further rumors, which is why today, things are absolutely great. No longer are a lot of these barriers in place, thanks to the amazing communities that rally behind the games they love. Given that, I want to take a trip to the skies above. Because while playing through Super Mario 3D Land, I'm sure there were a few of you who noticed that you weren't alone, that something was creeping on you in these skies above. If that sounds familiar to the Hell Valley Skytrees, well, that's because it is. Creepy aliens, man. Today, we're taking a closer look at the mysterious UFO that has been watching over players for years in Super Mario 3D Land. Now, ever since releasing my video on the World 4-4 Ghost, many players have been requesting that I document this mysterious UFO. Honestly, when it comes to creepy things in 3D Land, these two things are what players immediately think of. So let's cover the basics first. Starting off, in order to encounter this strange UFO, you need to head to World 1-3. This is a level that's constantly descending with giant rock walls on both sides. Immediately upon starting, you need to head straight for the binoculars. Normally, the player would use these binoculars to close in on the toad so that he'll reward you with a star medal. Usually, a player can finish this rather quickly and then move on. However, if you linger at the binoculars for a long time, eventually you'll see the elusive UFO of legend. It'll swirl down from the blue sky and just linger on the horizon. It's a genuine flying saucer and has some animated lights that run across it horizontally. Now, mind you, if you're viewing this on your actual 3DS, the clarity wouldn't be as crisp. Not that the UFO is HD at all, but it would look a lot more muddier. After the UFO lingers for a while, it then takes off into the sky. No particular reason for it to spawn, but it certainly caught a lot of players off guard. So, what exactly is this UFO? Now, UFOs are not new to the Mario universe. Obviously, in Super Mario Galaxy 1, we have giant UFOs taking Princess Peach's castle. So this UFO we see here could very well be a throwback to those UFOs from the earlier game. Now, those UFOs we see at the start of Super Mario Galaxy 1, those take place in a pre-rendered cutscene. It's just a video file that plays once you get through the middle of the Star Festival. However, the UFO we see in 3D Land is taking place in real time. So let's talk about that. Documenting that it exists really doesn't give us any more information about it as an object in the game. So let's actually determine what is going on here. For starters, I wanted to see if I could touch this bad boy. So I granted Mario the ability to fly and headed towards the sky. What's interesting is that the giant rock pillars alongside Mario can actually be walked on, or at least their collision rectangle can be. The walkable area is above the level though, but I figured this would be a good spot to judge just how high the UFO was in the sky. But there's a problem. So after waiting quite a while, I realized that the UFO only appears when the player is looking through the binoculars. Honestly, I should have noticed this earlier, since the toad who's on the wall also disappears when not looking through them. Since there isn't a way to adjust your camera, it makes sense that these objects unload. So that means the UFO is untouchable. But even if we could touch it, it wouldn't do much. You may have guessed this by now, but the UFO object actually is just a flat series of sprites. It's actually two sets of two oscillating sprites. If we take the camera in the game and look at it even more closely, this is pretty apparent. Rotating the camera around the object shows that it's just a flat, semi-transparent layer. To take it a step further, I wanted to determine what the sprites look like fully. Those who watched my World 4-4 Ghost video know I put the ghost through a similar process. After digging around a bit, I was finally able to locate the sprites. They're actually just stacked on top of each other. And because the UFO is symmetrical, the developers simply mirror one half of the sprite to generate the other half of the UFO. This allows them to keep the sprite small. In fact, the sprite itself is only 32 by 32 pixels, meaning each UFO half is relatively 32 by 16. When the UFO starts warping away into the sky, the sprite changes to a lower resolution version that is blurred. This is 16 by 16, meaning each half is 16 by 8. The low resolution actually helps the UFO appear more blurry due to the upscaling, which actually helps create sort of a motion blur effect. It's pretty clever. Something I did find interesting though is that the UFO sprite itself is very muddy. The black background that is typically transparent in the game has lots of artifacts in it. Pixels that are off black and gray, which actually appear in the game too. It's hard to tell, but there's floating pixels around the UFO. Seeing this makes me think that the UFO is actually just a larger image that a developer scaled down. If this was drawn as pixel art, this probably wouldn't have happened. I imagine the mock-up was a much larger size in which they used to create the subtle animation. It was then downsized to sprite size and then tinted grayscale. Since the transparency layer isn't a clear black and has artifacts, it definitely leads me to believe this was based off a photo at some point. It'd be strange for the artists to go out of their way to add in these artifacts. While revisiting this right before this video went out, I realized that the UFO actually comes back multiple times. While the player is looking through the binoculars, the game time freezes. But if we leave our character sitting there, staring up at the sky, the UFO will come back after a certain period of time. What's interesting is that the UFO actually takes off in a different direction each time too, which I thought was pretty neat. And to top this off, I have to correct myself from earlier, because the UFO does appear in the normal game view too, and is not tied to the binoculars like Toad. I just happen to miss it every time, unfortunately. Other than this though, there isn't really much more to this UFO. It was put in the game as a gag. It certainly caught a lot of players off guard though. And if you encountered this when you played, I hope you enjoyed this video sharing a bit more clarity on what the UFO actually is. And with that, if you are subscribed and you like this content, I strongly recommend subscribing. There's a lot more coming, so I hope you enjoy. Thanks for watching, guys and gals, and until my next video, cheers.